And today we're going to give you an update on the Epstein saga, just a little short update, zeroing in now on the co-conspirators, which I've been speaking about since last October 2018 when we released our documentary, Bringing Down Jeffrey Epstein. But before we do that, I want to remind you guys to bookmark theconsciousresistance.com. This is our lovely website here that has been built by my friend Neil. We're about to start moving into phase 3.0 of the Conscious Resistance, maybe a little bit of rebranding and a new logo and things like that. But in the meantime, make sure you're plugged in so you can get all of our content, interviews, essays, etc. Follow us on Minds, follow us on Steemit, join our Discord channel, get our text list updates, support via Patreon or Subscribestar. And of course, if you don't like YouTube, you can always follow via BitChute. Shout out to all our BitChute supporters. And you can get our email newsletter right here. And finally, if you'd like to get some kratom or CBD, I recommend you do it through our partner, My Brave Botanicals, and it helps keep people getting the medicine they need, the government, the state, the medicine that the state doesn't want you to have, and it helps support us. So, all right, let's dive right into this. Jeffrey Epstein's criminal case is now officially closed. For those of you who were tuned in the other day when I did my live video where Epstein's victims were speaking out in court, and I read through the transcripts. And for those who haven't been made aware, I actually have the transcripts. They are now on our own website. So just go here to this link and you can click on the transcripts yourselves. But when we were talking about that, I was telling you guys that this was being done because the judge was giving the victims a chance to speak because they were preparing to close the Epstein case. So the Epstein case is officially closed. Dead or alive, wherever he's at, the criminal case against Epstein is now closed. Less than 3 weeks after Epstein's alleged suicide, a federal judge has formally closed the sex trafficking case against him. On Thursday, Judge Richard Berman of the Southern District of New York approved a request filed by prosecutors to dismiss the charges. Because Epstein, the defendant, died while the case was pending and therefore before a final judgment was issued, the indictment must be dismissed under the rule of abatement, Berman wrote, referring to the rule under which, if a defendant dies, the indictment is wiped clean. The decision brings an unsatisfying end to a criminal case that captured the attention of the country, but it does not close the door on future legal matters involving his estate or his associates. Several of Epstein's accusers have filed major lawsuits against his estate since he was discovered unresponsive in his cell, blah, blah, blah. So prosecutors and accusers say that from at least the early 2000s, and really probably in the 90s, Epstein and his network of friends recruited girls as young as 14 years old, misled them, and forced them to have sex with him and other prominent people. Now, this is where it really starts keying in, right? Because we know that the sweetheart deal that was made by former Labor Secretary Alexander Acosta, which I will let you know we pointed out in the documentary before I think anybody else really did, that agreement, that sweetheart deal, it allowed the unnamed co-conspirators to go free. And we're going to talk about some of those co-conspirators, but just one other piece of update on this. Looks like New Mexico is preparing to seize the land at Epstein's ranch, officials have told Fox News. It says that the New Mexico Attorney General Hector Balderas found Epstein, who had killed himself apparently, had improperly leased the land from the state. He says, quote, having fully reviewed the referral from the state land commissioner in connection with my office's investigation into criminal conduct related to Jeffrey Epstein in New Mexico, I am issuing a determination that the state land commissioner should immediately retake state trust lands and cancel leases that were improperly given to him. The original leases to Epstein appear to have no beneficial use justification to the state, but rather appear to simply have been taken by him to increase privacy and the landmass surrounding his estate. This sweetheart deal must be canceled and reassigned to a New Mexico ranching family. So this comes because apparently Epstein had got some sort of lease, which goes back to 1993, via his company Cypress Incorporated in 1997. Cypress said that they would be using the land for livestock grazing, but the ranch never did that. So now the New Mexico State Land Commissioner's Office is saying that he's in violation, and so they're going to seize the land. He also said, Land Commissioner Stephanie Garcia said, quote, the rising number of allegations from survivors saying they were trafficked to the Zorro Ranch is reason enough for us to rip these leases in half and seize back this public land. Yeah, but at the same time, if you're just seizing the land, is there going to be an actual investigation? Is anybody going to go into his house? I mean, the FBI is supposedly investigating all of this still, but I don't know. It's like the FBI, who's watching the watchers? I wrote an article about that years ago because the FBI entraps people. They set up activists. They create terrorist false flags, and they're involved in all kinds of shady things. I'm not sure if the FBI or the Department of Justice can be truly trusted to do this quote, independent investigation. But we shall see. Now, moving on to these co-conspirators. Prince Andrew is continuing to be in the in the news because of the Daily Mail largely, but others. And it says Prince Andrew ends luxury golf vacation to, quote, face the music over Jeffrey Epstein crisis. Reports say photos have emerged of the Duke of York partying with Epstein and Trump at Mar-a-Lago in 2000. So this was being reported just today, realizing it was, quote, not a good look to be seen playing at a luxury golf resort in southern Spain. Prince Andrew and his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, flew home to the UK to, quote, face the music over the growing scandal over his relationship with Epstein. The Duke and Duchess of York traveled on a private jet from Soto Grande Resort, where they have been in seclusion the past 2 weeks, the Daily Mail reported. The return to the UK of the friendly ex-spouses came the day before newly surfaced photos emerged in a British tabloid showing Andrew socializing with Epstein and Trump at the future president's Mar-a-Lago resort in Palm Beach. Look at this picture. This is like a who's who of pictures. You got Trump, you got Prince Andrew, you got Epstein in the background, and you got Maxwell right here. Pretty interesting. With the men in the photos are the future lady Melania Trump and British socialite Maxwell, who is also friends with Andrew, who is being accused of recruiting and grooming underage girls to have sex with Epstein. So we know the deal here. We all know the deal of what's going on. Of course, Trump claims he had a falling out a long time ago, yada, yada, yada. We've disproven that, or at least shown that there's not hard evidence for that claim. And interestingly enough, Virginia Roberts Gouffre, she also said that Prince Andrew needs to come clean on his sexual allegations. This was in the transcripts I read on, Tuesday, I think, where she says he knows what he's done. And Virginia Roberts has been one of the most outspoken women who's continued to call, for exposing these people. She said Prince Andrew needs to come clean about his relationship. Quote, he knows exactly what he's done, and I hope he comes clean about it. This was in a courthouse hearing after they all got to speak. So Prince Andrew is not out of the water yet. I mean, of course, he's got diplomatic immunity or royalty immunity, so we'll see if anything actually comes of this. But at the very least, this guy's probably going to try to recede back to private life and never be seen from again and, slowly just wither away. And then when he dies, they'll hold a funeral and they'll talk about how great he was and how he was royalty, and people will forget all about his connections to Jeffrey Epstein, except for a few of us will say, hey, remember when that guy was connected to that pedophile? And people will say, don't talk about that. It's not nice. It's impolite to talk about those things when people are dead. You don't need to bash them. They're dead now. Just let us be happy with their memory. That's not justice. And whatever this guy is involved in, he sure seems to be hiding out. He's not coming out and speaking up for himself. I know the royals try to be very careful with their public image, but yeah, most of us know that Prince Andrew, Prince Charles, these people have connections to some shady people. Prince Charles apparently being mentored by somebody who is also a pedophile, if you hadn't heard that story. And then we got this story from the New York Times, which of course is behind a paywall. Jeffrey Epstein, the women accused of finding girls for him, just came out this morning. Anybody got a count? Send that over, or I'm sure maybe you can find it aggregated elsewhere. But honestly, I doubt there's anything new that we haven't heard. Because as I said, back in October 18, when we released the Jeffrey Epstein documentary, I talked about Maxwell. I talked about Sarah Kellen. I talked about Nadia Marcinkova. I named these three women. We showed their pictures. We talked about how they have reinvented themselves as pilots, and one of them is married to a NASCAR driver now. These women are still out there. Maxwell is still out there. They are definitely deeply involved in the media. And if you think that some people in the media and government aren't connected to this, then I don't think you're really paying much attention. Or at least you're not asking the hard, deep question. So are we going to get to the bottom of it? I don't know. But keying in on those women, if there's anybody in the judicial system and the legal system that's actually trying to get justice, focusing on Maxwell, Sarah Kellen, Nadia Marcinkova, these women who helped recruit the young girls, that should be the focus. And then, of course, peripheral players like Prince Andrew and others. And another player that we did also mention in the documentary, if you haven't seen our documentary, I recommend it. We're over almost to 600,000 views. Maybe we can hit 1 million views and just keep pushing the story of Jeffrey Epstein out there. But we also mentioned Jean-Luc Brunel, who is the owner of the M2 modeling agency, which is long been associated with sexual assault and allegations of rape. This guy is, as controversial as they come. You can find many outlets reporting on what he's done. You got people as far back as The Guardian. You got France's Liberation, The Washington Post, and of course the Daily Beast, and others reporting on the allegations against him. I even found some of the women themselves. Now, Jean-Luc Brunel, of course, is apparently impossible to find right now. He's sort of hidden himself from public life for the moment, and one can imagine why. But he has been accused by many people of rape and, of bringing them into the Epstein circle. Models say Epstein's closest pal drugged and raped them. And this is Jean-Luc Brunel. Now, the interesting thing about Jean-Luc Brunel is, again, he was part of the M2 modeling agency. And who else was involved in modeling agencies and fashion shows that we know of? Well, we know Leslie Wexner, of course, who is the guy, the older fellow who claims he has nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein and severed contact with him, who gave Epstein his mansion. He was involved in Victoria's Secret, the Victoria's Secret fashion show. Donald Trump, some of you may know, before he became president, he was the one who owned the Miss Universe, Miss America, Miss Teen America pageant shows, and talked about how he liked to go in the back and he could see all the girls dressing up and they couldn't do anything because, well, he ran the fashion shows, and that's one of the benefits of it. Now, interesting to know is that, quote, there's a videotape of a 60-minute segment from 1988, long suppressed by legal order. This was a 60-minute segment that was supposed to air in 1988, exposing Jean-Luc Brunel, that exposed him as an alleged serial abuser of young women, interviews with competitors who described him as a serial rapist, and a 28-page transcript of our taped interview in which I asked, this is the reporter speaking, I asked about the charges that Brunel was way more loco with young women in his charge, as is often reported, fondness for the champagne of bottled drugs, cocaine. His assurances of innocence then were barely credible, but I felt a responsibility to report them alongside the sordid charges against him and some of the more damning passages from our conversation. But I left out what happened the same night as our daytime interview. So this person just recounting the night that they spent at a club with Jean-Luc Brunel and witnessing the women around him and just kind of giving, some background on this whole situation. But again, this focus is the co-conspirators. Jean-Luc Brunel is one of them. The women surrounding Epstein, Maxwell, Sarah Kellen, and Nadia Marcinkova, and Prince Andrew. These are the people that we should be keen in on focusing. Now, I know a lot of other folks are trying to look at the money and all these different things, and they are important to see who Epstein was connected to and creating a web. And I've seen some good work over on Corey's Digs website, who I've recently just become aware of, doing great work over there. And then, of course, I've been following the work on Mint Press News from Whitney Webb. And all of these articles, excuse me while this loads, are definitely worth your time. They're deep dives, they're big reads, but Corey's Digs does a good job of kind of creating a map of the connections to Epstein and St. Thomas. So that's one area to start. So there's a lot of different areas to focus on, but I think the key should, for the moment, now that Epstein's case is officially closed, should be the co-conspirators. And of course, giving voices to the women. So if you haven't read these transcripts or you haven't seen my video on this, I do recommend you checking it out because these women deserve to be heard, and that's what should be key, I believe, ultimately, is getting these women their chance to voice their feelings and their trauma of everything they've gone through because of Jeffrey Epstein and because of these co-conspirators and people that were involved. So if you want to help do that, please share that content out there. And of course, if you want to support us, today is our last day of the Support the Future of the Conscious Resistance Network crowdfunding campaign. It'll be running, I think, less than 24 hours now if anybody wants to donate to it. Thanks to everybody who has supported. We did surpass the $2,500 mark that I set in the last couple days. Originally, my goal was $5,000, but we did half of that, and that's freaking awesome. So I'm very, very thankful for that. But if anybody wants to throw in any more support before we close this out, I'm just going to be doing these crowdfunding campaigns once a month for 1 week or 1 or 2 weeks each month to just continue this going. Now that I'm completely independent and I'm not getting paid for any of my articles or any of the work that I do, I'm dependent on you guys to keep doing this. So we have 13 hours left and we raised $2,600. Anything else to support me would be very much appreciated. And you guys know the drill. Like, follow, subscribe, share, thumbs up. Enjoy your day. Remember, you are amazing. Don't get too down on all the crazy shit in the world, because the only way we're going to change it is if we start healing and helping ourselves. And that's what my next video coming out is going to be about, how the real way we stop the deep state, the Illuminati, the conspiracy, the 1%, whatever, is to start healing ourselves. And that's what the conscious resistance is about. And we're going to make sure that we keep that message a part of my work, because I kind of been getting away from it. I want you to remember that. So stay tuned for that. And until next time, remember, you are powerful. You're beautiful and you are free. Peace.